This is the Open University.
Berlin in January is grey. Paris is grey as well, not quite as grey as Berlin, but there comes a time when you need to get away and see the sunshine. And our California, we Europeans, is of course the Mediterranean and the south. And Spain is, if you live by the Gare de Lyon in Paris, which we do most of the time, you can get a train, pretty cheap and fast train that goes just straight to Barcelona. And Barcelona is already a different world, really, from France. Spain is kind of, well, it's sunny for a start. It's been very windy this week. A couple of weeks have been here. And we've been doing a little trek through the cities, starting in Barcelona, which is very familiar for us. And we particularly like the Poblenou area, which we were staying in this time. And it's kind of within walking distance of the beach, but it's also kind of full of creative enterprises of various kinds. The art school is there, and lots of interesting cafes. And our favorite, actually, this time was slightly outside that district, towards the Arc de Triomphe area, and it's called Orval. This is the didactic style. Beautiful terrazzo floors. I like terrazzo floors and plants, and this kind of look of a sort of rather acerbic classroom that they have there. But we made a trek basically from Barcelona to Valencia to Benidorm to see the skyscrapers of the seafront of Benidorm, already brutalist monuments to a vanished era of international tourism. And then we headed to Madrid and then back to Paris via Barcelona again. This is me standing, posing, having just arrived off the train from Gare de Lyon in Barcelona, getting onto the metro, and noticing that the tiles in the metro, the great thing about South Europe in general is ceramics. I love ceramic environments. And I noticed that these tiles looked like the cover of Pubic Intellectual, which I'd actually modelled on some paving stones in Vigo, which is in the west of Spain. They seem to be a general Spanish thing. They do these funny mixtures of curves and straight lines, which always remind me a bit of Frank Stella paintings. So here I am sort of proclaiming my affinity for those. Tired after a 6-hour journey, but excited to be in this new city. And one of the attractions is Humana, which it has the same name as the German thrift stores, Humana, charity-based second-hand clothes shops. But they have this totally different approach. In Germany, the Humanas have become unaffordable. They're extremely expensive now. You can go in and see sweaters in the vintage departments for 40 euros. Here in Spain, they cut the prices regularly, and they have these sort of fire sale weeks when things are 5 euros, then the next day they're 4 euros, then they go down to 3. Eventually it's 1 euro for everything. So we managed to coincide, luckily, with one of these Humana price-cutting things. So Naomi got this jacket in the vintage Humana in Barcelona. There's 3 of them, 4 of them. In Madrid, there's 3 or 4 as well. By the time we reached Madrid, it was 1 euro for everything. So we were in seventh heaven, really. A maximum elegance for a minimum price. What better can there be than that? Also, great exhibitions. CCCB in Barcelona is very good. They had an exhibition of female cartoonists this time when we were there. And this is Naomi paying tribute, sticking her head into a yellow Fantasia tube. And the thing I liked most, I think, in that exhibition was the work of Nadia Hafid. This is a kind of ideographic reduction of sex to a series of kind of diagrams and basic, simple ideas, as if it were a sort of escape plan for a jet airline or something. That's a man's work, which was just put in as a kind of illustration of different tendencies within the exciting subculture of bande dessinée and graphic work in Spain, but I've always had a secret wish to be one of these graphic book makers, and that's more sex. I seem to photograph the sort of reductio ad absurdum of sex in these strips. A very exciting and creative city. We were staying near the art school, and Barcelona always, because it has the beach right there. Here we are on the beach. It wasn't super warm, but for January, fantastic to even see the sunshine at all, to see the sun. That distant cousin, and just the kind of, I don't know, I'm excited by what the kind of stuff you see at the market, for instance, the flea market, which is actually a very amazing structure in Barcelona. It's not like other flea markets. It's got this mirrored roof. Of course, there's this also famously amazing structure. I've never actually been inside the Gaudi stuff, the Gaudi Cathedral anyway. I've been inside the private house he did. They keep adding these sort of wedding cake decorations, which I don't think are in the spirit of Gaudi at all. He was like a jazz musician improvising new facades as the fancy took him and as the money became available. This is the Catalonia Museum up the hill, and a sweater I bought in the Humana for €4, I think that was, and I'm proudly sporting that. This is a Picasso mural they have near the Cathedral Square. And books in the markets. This is Orval, which became my favorite cafe to go to in the morning, and this kind of terrazzo plants and didactic architecture, or didactic furniture. It appeals to me somehow. There's another one called Three Marks, which is close by that and is equally good. This is it here, actually, Three Marks. That's upstairs. So they have, I don't know, something weirdly similar to South Korea about Spain, which is that they're in a place where they kind of really value creativity and color and, optimism and stuff like that. So I obviously respond. I pick up on that. Bursting into, this is my current sort of color is lilac. Is it lilac? It's a kind of vivid purple, light purple maybe. And this is the sort of flamboyance of the shop fronts. I actually had to edit this photograph to take out some tagging, graffiti, spray can stuff, which I didn't like at all. Didn't add anything to this beautiful facade, which is a bakery. It was closed the day we went there. And here is something that's very important in Barcelona. Barcelona is doing a fantastic job of keeping cars out of the city or minimizing their presence in the city. And this is all part of reclaiming public space, commoning, as we like to call it. And here's a little participatory meeting for people to talk about some of the local government's decisions in a suburb, actually, of Barcelona, up the hill a bit. By the time we get here, we're now in Valencia, and this is the Ceramic Museum in Valencia outside. The most obnoxiously over-the-top kind of Baroque you'll ever see. Actually, this is back in Barcelona. I kind of like the simplicity of this tile work where it's just blue and white. It's back in Poblenou. And just sort of city textures and the kind of weird. This is actually the station at Valencia. I played a concert in Valencia in 1988. I hardly remember anything except there was this Catalan singing artist with us called Fania, who had to accompany me to a hospital at 2 a.m. because I bashed my head coming off the stage and got blood streaming down into my eyes and had to be given stitches with no anesthetic. It didn't do any damage really, as far as I know. But it was quite a dramatic. I remember Alan McGee being absolutely horrified when he saw me with blood pouring out of my head. This looks like Venice, but it's actually again Valencia near the museum. I really like this kind of neoclassical design where it looks a bit like some of the architecture outside Rome at the EUR, which was built during the Mussolini period in Rome. Very nice Art Deco typefaces everywhere. Refugio And the flowers on the trees, even in the middle of winter, this kind of vibrancy which you get there. We went and had these local delicacies. This is churros with chocolate. So this is a very dark chocolate, and you dip the pastry, which is very oily, into the chocolate, which is surprisingly unsweetened, non-sweet. So went to this rather charming old place and ate that, and they were also serving these sorts of things, local confectionery. And bubble tea, of course. This is another. Usually our day consists in going for a coffee in the morning and going for bubble tea after lunch, and so it's sort of punctuated by drinks. This is the Central Market in Valencia. And after this, we decided to go to the coast, to Alicante. It turned out to be quite difficult to get to Benidorm because there is no direct train from Valencia to Benidorm. You have to go to Alicante and then take a tram, very cheap and good tram with scenic sea views all the way up the coast to the east coast of Spain there from Alicante to Benidorm. But Benidorm is absolutely the last place you'd ever expect me or someone like me to want to go. Oh yeah, I should just say this was our hotel in Valencia, which was called the Casual de Musica, and every room had a different band design. I asked them if they had a Bowie room, but the guy on the desk just didn't know. Either didn't know who David Bowie was, or he didn't know what the rooms were. He was just like a temp worker or something. But this was the AC/DC room. We weren't actually we were staying in the Queen room with the graphics from Hot Space, their Hot Space album. Here we are saluting the magic, magistry, and or majesty even, and versatility of Queen in an entirely black painted bedroom. So here we are. Okay, we've arrived now in Benidorm. And why did I go to Benidorm? I think because I saw some pictures on just the Google Maps pictures where it had these dramatic rocky mountains behind, and it had the sea, and it had these skyscrapers directly fronting the sea, which on paper might sound like an awful resort idea. But actually, if you're sort of into brutalism, you're into 60s and 70s architecture, and the golden age of mass tourism, it actually is a very exciting place to look at. Here's a kind of just an example of what the beach looks like in winter. People hiding from the wind, which is actually quite brutal. And then all these skyscrapers, no planning restrictions on height or anything, any of that namby-pamby stuff that now people would be required to do. It looks like some of the buildings at the end are toppling into the sea there. And they have these strange, I think they're fishing nets, I'm not sure. But I found it very bracing. Not just because the wind was blowing so hard, but this kind of weird clean-lined modernism. Here, the other building actually, that's directly on the front, and it's just a classic 60s skyscraper. A lot of British people, retired people living there, so there was a certain geriatric feeling to it. I thought there would be much more sort of beer guts and sort of shaved heads and a little bit more of an edgy Blackpool kind of atmosphere, but actually it was mostly just very old retirees who probably voted for Brexit, and are now suffering the consequences. But it had the feeling a little bit of a seaside town off season, a British seaside town off season, but with a totally different architecture. There was no cream teas, no sort of cosy cottages. It was this brutal architecture and sort of neons and advertising and revolving restaurants and rooftops and stuff like that. So very interesting. And there's a very interesting article in the Financial Times about the way it's kind of reminiscent of Hong Kong in some ways, or it's reminiscent of Macau, or obviously Miami in some senses, and even Cape Town. I put a thing on Facebook saying, guess where I am, just with a little detail of a picture of Benidorm. And it took even people who knew the area really well, it took them a long time to guess where that was. The one thing really that I couldn't recommend is the coffee, and there is things were cheap. The food was cheap. You could get a full English breakfast for just a few euros. But there was only really one good cafe in town. That's called Axel's. He'd someone who studied in London and then came back to Benidorm to open a good cafe, relatively good. I mean, not great, but you are spoiled for coffee in the big cities. You have great coffee. So we hurried back, and this is us back in the big city in Madrid. This is a cafe we like a lot, which is called Hanso. And we would have breakfast every morning in Hanso. Very good iced lattes. And the only thing that slightly mars Hanso is the omnipresent Americans who speak in extremely piercing voices, and every third word is like. How can people put like as every second or third word? I really don't understand it. It's generational bewilderment probably on my part, but I find it kind of hard to deal with. This is a neon in the one of the art centers here in Madrid. We don't have any problem when it's all lit up, and then when it's only partially lit up, we have a problem. And that's a jacket I got when everything in Humanas, the vintage Humanas in Madrid was just €1. So that's a €1 jacket. Almost got this kind of, I love the hand-knitted granny stuff. There seem to have been many, many grannies dying in Spain, leaving their stuff to Humana. That's that jacket. And also the sweater was the same. Actually, no, that was when things were €3, I think, or €2. That was slightly more expensive. But yeah, I'm sort of centering on lilacs, as you can see, pinks and lilacs and whites, off-whites and stuff. But also got this beret in a charity shop, so I'm sort of looking like an old Spanish man, an old retiree who remembers the Civil War and stuff. This is a view, you can see Madrid was like 10 degrees colder than the coastal cities, and you can see the snow on the hills around Madrid. Madrid has a totally different feeling. I'm really perplexed by the layout. It has these undulating hills, so you're always going up or down hills. There are always these weird angles of the streets, and I find it really easy to get lost. But one thing you should never miss in Madrid if you're there at the weekend is El Rastro, which is the flea market, which is a hill. It goes down the hill, and at the top of the hill it's just sort of cheap new clothes, but then it gets more interestingly shitty as you go further down the hill. So at the bottom it's just people selling stuff off blankets and tabletops, and this was a page of cards of poor people's garments. So you see there, I think this is either the region down here in the corner, or it's their profession. I'm not, Romaria, I think it looks more like a regional description. But yeah, it's Ortraje Povero, which I assume means this is the dress of poor people. Someone Spanish will no doubt correct me. This was a shop in a charity shop, a record. I went to YouTube and found this guy was actually very good. He was part of a Catalan rock music, I think, rock movement in the 70s. And then he went solo, Gualberto. And actually very nice guitar music and singing. Check out on YouTube Gualberto if you have time and the inclination. I really enjoyed it. So more cameras, the typical kind of, God knows if that's even a legitimate brand of camera, Petri FT at the market. More graphics. This was the Chinatown to the south of Madrid. They actually had the Chinese New Year on Sunday when we were here, but we missed the dragon dances and things. But we went down the next day just to see what the Chinese area is. It's way outside the central area. And fantastic food, very cheap, huge quantities, and the usual bubble tea and all the rest of it, the Chinatown stuff. Very mixed racially, though, also Indian people there, and that's so far. We're about to leave Madrid tomorrow and head back to Barcelona, and then back to Paris after a couple of days. So I just thought I'd update you. I don't know, but other people's dreams are always boring, and people's holiday slides are notoriously boring, so I don't know how interesting it is. But this skirt's another €1 find. It's sort of amazing, like fake Pierre Cardin logos from the early 70s, I'd imagine. So that's the end of my little holiday report. Hope you enjoyed it. 21 minutes. I'm going to wander off the screen and leave you to the raging sea that we recorded once from the panoramic point in the middle of Benidorm when you look down onto the sea. And I'll see you next time.
Open University.